Chapter 1. Surviving the Bad Situation. Many situations that we encounter are very pleasant and welcomed. We are born, we are greeted with love and affection, with at least one person happy to give us the love and comfort we need. As babies, we are thrusted into life with complete autonomy over our present and future. Additionally, we are totally receptive to emotions and reactions that immediately impact us as babies. Pediatricians believe newborns can feel and understand their parents or family through imprinting with one another. When a baby imprints, it is the latching and primary stage of emotional and neurobehavioral development. The infant recognizes its mother through oral, tactile memory for continuing evolutionary survival. Imprinting is the term Konrad Lorenz chose in 1935 to describe the rapid visual acquisition of the ability of newly hatched goslings to recognize and socially bond to the mother for evolutionary survival. Lorenz also postulates that this action is similar to newborn human infants when a baby breastfeeds or seeks mother's touch. Being a mother is the most important thing when raising a child. The mother imparts their emotions, food, and physicality onto the baby in the mother's womb. Studies have found that babies can hear and respond to the outside world before birth. Therefore, if the mother is experiencing happiness and positivity, the baby will more likely feel the same feelings as the mother. However, when the mother feels stress, insecurity, or trauma, the baby also experiences it. We must be aware of the environment and emotional things we expose our babies to, and our children as well. What if the infant does not receive the privilege to imprint and latch onto the mother? Would that child come into the world lost or needing to be loved and wanted? If the mother decides to emotionally abandon the baby by rejecting to imprint, does the baby have the necessary tools to grow up in happiness and security? The mother-child relationship is so important to the baby's emotional growth because the baby desires to exist and wants to feel the protection of the womb in a newly assigned place. We cannot diminish in any way the imperativeness of having love and acceptance in the family. We bond when we experience a connection with a family member or close friend. Webster defines bonding as the formation of a close relationship, as between the mother and child, or between a person and an animal. Especially through frequent or constant association, bonding is essential and imperative to growth and nurturing a family. When a family bonds, they build lasting memories that help each other feel validated and needed. During the bonding process, the family may experience great moments of laughter and joy. Also, there may be times when bad situations happen. Each person is responsible for being truthful and empathetic during the bonding process. Bonding is a commitment and journey. Although bad situations may arise, it is critical to find a way not to allow the bad situations to define who you are or negatively influence your purpose. Bad situations are similar to crises. Crises are dangers that threaten you and others that cause distress. Fortunately, each person who finds themselves in a crisis or bad situation responds differently. We are created with tolerance levels that allows us to respond to trauma and crisis differently. If two people witness a trauma, their reactions and emotional ideations will differ. Each of our responses to trauma or a bad situation can place us in a cycle of mental disorders that keeps us bound to the trauma, and thus we cannot be released from it. It is called bondage. Bondage is like being enslaved to something or someone to the point of oppression and fear. When we are in bondage, it permeates negative feelings and feelings that cause physical, mental, or emotional harm. Contrary to the forming a bond with someone, bondage develops subjugation and fear. And fear creates a habit you cannot break. Additionally, the bondage that a person may experience may include being constantly told to do something or feel a certain way for a person to remain in a relationship with you. Also, bondage can present itself as someone always relying on you to help them feel safe and secure. This person would not understand if you are unavailable or cannot show empathy or compassion when experiencing trauma. Finally, a person who desires to introduce a person to bondage rarely has time for their needs or attempts to help them when they are troubled and have a terrible situation. It is essential to understand that when we accept the bonding process with someone, it should not be a struggle to relate or to feel comfortable with the other person. We should have similarities or commonalities that spark mutual interest and mutual respect during the process. Forming a bond should hold mutual respects, thoughts, and needs. And just like the mother with her child, there is still a bond even when bad situations or bad days happen. 3 areas help us understand the importance of being in a relationship with others. These 3 areas are from the author's point of view and not scientific or political. Each of these areas are negatively influenced by the vacuum effect, which can lead to the destruction of the friendship or relationship simply because of the negative free space. The first importance is forming a bond. When we first meet someone, we are excitedly cautious that the person will accept us for who we are. We will have distinct commonalities and interests that allows us to be around and enjoy each other's company. When forming a bond, a person could share interests in sports, whereas both play football or baseball and enjoy the sport of the game. We also find ways to bond with people who share a faith or a religion. Unfortunately, this is most intimate and short-termed, not because of the subject matter, but because of the inability to sustain the relationship based on shared faith or bonding through religious practices. It's important to note that forming a bond through our belief and faith is most precious and powerful because of the vulnerability and openness that entails sharing faith with another person. We placed in the proper perspective, it becomes the most transparent act a person can experience. We often come together as individuals to seek hope and guidance from something that has us in bondage. Additionally, when we come to express the willingness to accept a greater power for our lives, we are thoroughly trusting in this power to help and deliver us from the choices presented to us. It's not easy to discern what is best for us or which choice we should make. Therefore, we seek a better option. However, though we seek to try to discern what is best, it is hard to find the answer we need because we still harbor evil thoughts or ill feelings about something or someone in our past. This creates a vacuum that allows the space we are willing to fill with hope to remain filled with negativity from the past and the trauma that ensued from our history. This is the problem for many because trauma has permeated bondage that will not allow us to be free. Freedom from bondage while trying to create a bond is almost impossible. There must be trust to let go of the bondage. In our Christian faith, we must believe that a God in heaven loves us enough to care for and eliminate the pain of our past. It is not easy because our past traumas and bondage are real. It has teeth and is still living and breathing in our mental and emotional state. When forming a bond with someone, we often find ourselves at a crossroads when something happens to test our desire to work out the challenges within the bonding process. It is easier to love and care for someone when every expectation is being met, and you feel comfortable and complacent in bondage with the person. We tend to allow our emotional barrier to be lowered, and we begin to extend trust and deep gratitude for that person while believing that they are sent into our lives to fill a free space that still holds us in emotional bondage from our past. We hope and pray for deliverance and healing from the pain. However, we trust in our past experiences and instances to give us valid answers or validation that we are making the right choices this time. But how can it? How can we allow our past experiences to tell us that we are following the right emotions or doing the right thing regarding this particular relationship or friendship, when we apply the same principles from our past during the forming stages of our relationships? I'm reminded of a quote: "We may define a disorder as a personal construction which is used repeatedly despite consistent invalidation." Alternatively, another quote is more commonly used that is credited to Albert Einstein, which is easier to understand, which says, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." This happens when we apply our past understandings to situations we have not entirely healed from. When we are in bondage, it gives the impression that we are healed and delivered from the hurt of our past when we are not. Some of the clues that we are not healed and delivered from our past are in our hesitancy to move forward in love with someone who has proven themselves to care and genuinely has our best interest in mind. Unlike the representative, they try to help and alleviate the trauma and pain we are still encountering. I'm reminded of a Bible scripture that helps provide guidance, telling us, "Understand this, my beloved brother and sisters. Let everyone be quick to hear, meaning be careful, thoughtful, and listener. Slow to speak means a speaker of carefully chosen words. And slow to anger, meaning that you're patient, reflective, forgiving. For the resentful, deep-hearted, or deep-seated anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. And that's found in James, the first chapter, 19th through the 20th verse, the Amplified Version. Therefore, in our quest for divine healing and deliverance from our past, we must be willing to adhere to something greater than ourselves. I had the opportunity to come across a Bible scripture in the Old Testament that said something that caused me to always wonder about its proper meaning and context. I often pondered why this particular book would express these thoughts in such a way that would allow a person to question their thoughts and feelings relating to bonding and building a relationship. During the times that we were bad and dismal, we looked for answers from the elderly, the wise, and affirming people to help us make the right choices and to think in a way that we could bring clarity. These people only know as much as we allow them to understand. The mental and emotional hurt and pain are sometimes wholly wrapped up in who we are now and who we represent to the world. Some often gain strength to continue to live and move and strive due to the pain and trauma to prove that our lives are still worthy of living and that past actions did not win. Wright tells us that the word trauma comes from the Greek word wound, and it's a condition that is more than a state of crisis. It is a normal reaction to abnormal events that overwhelm a person's ability to adapt to life where you feel powerless. But others turn to alternative means of coping with the past traumas, which causes a split. A split is referenced as a coping mechanism for people, generally during childhood ages of 3 and 4 years old, who are now adults trying not to allow their past traumas and pains to destroy their chances of understanding happiness and peace. This is why it is important to take the time to talk and get to know the person with whom you are building a bond or trying to establish a relationship. Many people have lived in unimaginable trauma and pain due to the coronavirus and the pandemic of 2019 and its lingering variants that continue to inflict trauma and pain worldwide. Also, we know that no two people handle pain and trauma the same and should not be treated in such a manner. Surviving a bad situation will take divine intervention and the willingness to trust something other than what we have experienced in recent years. A bad situation can push people to grow weary and numb to their neighbors' thoughts and feelings, only to seek refuge in their concentric circle. Bad conditions have the power to leave us traumatized and helpless. Alternatively, a bad situation can help us find the hope to reach deeper within the past pain and find the humanity and strength to journey back to the path of seeing a good and the good in our neighbor. If we are going to survive dire situations, we need to continually strive to envision ourselves rising from the fire and pain and desire to keep moving forward and upward bound. That will allow health, and wellness to become a reality in our lives. It's easier to blame our situation on our past. It remains unaccountable to the circumstances rather than to accept that our decisions to accept every negative thing and every negative person's opinions establish roots in our minds. This would eventually propagate emotions to keep us in bondage to the words and the actions that can only lead to our eventual stronghold. The bondage and stronghold of negative words and deeds must be disavowed and cast far away from us as we start the resurrection plan of mercy and grace. First, for ourselves, and then for the people, places, and things we have encountered. To end this chapter with the famous statement that a very profound leader and teacher proclaimed to us, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." That person and great teacher and leader is Jesus Christ. Therefore, our mandate is to spread joy and illumination to the lives and pathways of those who may have been hurt and traumatized in their past. We must be willing to love them where they are and encourage them to release and be delivered from the pain and trauma. Let us start the process of helping and healing someone by revealing how we were once in similar or actual circumstances, but a life raft extended to us and we grabbed it with all of our strength in our bodies. We must boldly illustrate how we did not let go until we were safe and delivered from the weight that set out to destroy our present and future. Let's proclaim today that the past is over. We must look to become the light for others so brightly until the hope of a better future keeps the darkness and pain of the past further from the future. Don't carry it, bury it.